Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. Goldbelly ships Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garden's famous cakes. So, if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT. That's goldbelly.com, promo code GIFT.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, joined by Sergeant Walton. And how are you?
I'm excellent.
Today, I thought we could talk about what happens when first responders stop trusting leadership, but they still love the job.
There is, I've seen this. I mean, I've been doing this over 17, going on 18 years. And I've been through so many different leaders, different leadership models and styles. And over time, you have trust, you have distrust. It's going to inevitably happen no matter where you're working, what agency you're working for, because people don't always have the same values and how they're approaching any efforts within your department, and they always want to put it's the perfect example. So I actually had yesterday, I'm problem solving some traffic issues that I'm dealing with, and there was this old man walking by, and I just said, "Hey, good morning, how are you?" And he comes over and just starts chatting with me. I talked with him for like 40 minutes, and he starts talking about kind of economic development. That's what he did for a long majority of his career. And then we started talking about my city's kind of economic development plans and what they've done and how they've hurt themselves over the years because everybody always wants to put their name on something instead of looking out for the greater good of the city and being able to establish a great foundation for it. And I think we run into the same thing with leadership within our departments on a regular basis. Is everyone's always looking to put their name onto something instead of looking at not only the laws and what we're doing as a department to embetter the city. They start looking at what can I put my name on to make this change, to make me stand out compared to others in the past.
You know, I'm so glad that you said that, because I want to brag on you for a second. You are such a great silent contributor. And there are so many times where you have poured into things and people without needing that recognition. And I didn't connect that to this episode, but a lot of the times that ego with leadership absolutely causes this kind of disconnection. And
it really does. And thank you, first of all. But it's something that I think we as developing leaders and going through our careers within law enforcement, we forget about the realities of what people are truly going through. And I have a great leader at our department right now, which is phenomenal. But you see others who, this progression plan, whether it's good or bad, there's always worry to it. And you always have people tie in their own emotional responses and ideas instead of looking at it as what's for the greater good. And I think that's where we as leaders fail to listen to the actual people who deal with this stuff on a regular basis. And we want to put our own experiences into play instead of actually talking about how could we improve this together.
This isn't about being bitter or insubordinate. It's about the internal conflict that forms when decisions feel like they're disconnected and then values feel like they're compromised. And I think too, even loyalty becomes complicated because you still care about the job, but then the system around it no longer feels like it's safe or fair or even aligned.
And with that is because you have these leaders who they are in a leadership position, but I wouldn't truly call them leaders. And I think we want to define that definition between the two. Is there's people who are in those leadership position, but are they true leaders? And I think that's where we get misguided all the time, is because one, we have to follow what they're implementing onto us, but they're not leading us how how we as a department or as an agency need to be led to be productive, to achieve the goals for that greater good.
Let's understand this a little bit more deeply, because the psychological concept is called moral injury and institutional disillusionment. And this happens when, as an individual, you feel like you've been betrayed by authority figures or institutions that were expected to protect, support, and then act with integrity. We see this happening all the time in law enforcement. And I think that for first responders, this creates this identity strain where you're loving the work while emotionally distancing yourself from leadership just to survive.
And I think especially during the 2020 debacle, we saw this a lot, because once again, you're seeing these leaders, they're going out and taking a knee with these protesters, with these rioters. You see them going out and trying to put their name onto something to show their togetherness, when in all reality, what they just did in doing that is betrayed their troops, because their troops are out there on a daily basis getting pelted with rocks, bottles, fireworks, all that stuff. And they're going out and showing that you support them. Like, I get the mindset of setting up the alliance and trying to repair some of that stuff. But in all reality, you just completely betrayed every one of your followers.
It's a major slap in the face. And this often shows up as a loss of trust in command decisions or emotional withdrawal from your leadership, cynicism mixed with pride in the job. Sometimes you might have confusion about loyalty and values, and then staying quiet just to be able to protect yourself.
When you lose your voice in being able to express your thoughts, opinions, and conclusions, that's a huge sign of not having that trust within your leadership, because going back into historically looking at, if you don't have a voice, pretty much you're living under a tyranny and a tyrannical leader who pretty much will discipline you, who will go after you, who will remove you from the position that you're in because you're disagreeable to them. And it's not that you're just disagreeable with them, is you're offering a different opinion to it.
You are spot on today.
Thank you.
Feel the fire from you. I love it. So how do we know when this is happening, and what does it feel like? I think that there are signs that the tension is wearing you down. And I think for some people they show up, but they show up with less heart because that commitment remains, but the meaning starts to fade. Or maybe you feel like you're torn between loyalty and then the reality of things. Both can't be true at the same time. Go ahead.
And I just wanted to say with that is we start allying ourselves over time. When you have these leaders who are not leading and they're just in that leadership role, we start allying with people that we know, like, and trust, that have the same mindsets as us. And you got to also be very careful, because even though you know them, you share that partnership with them, you never know how they're going to use that position that they have on you to be able to use you to ride up further.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think too, you might feel like your identity feels shaky. If leadership fails, then basically we might ask ourselves, what does that mean about the job?
And that's the challenge, especially in the last 6 years, that law enforcement in general is people are. I had a great conversation the other night at a meeting, and we were starting as law enforcement to move out of where people were supporting us. They weren't talking about defunding the police. They weren't talking about all this stuff. And then all the ICE stuff started happening and occurring, to where once again we became the target of this agenda that is being pressed against us. And it's always ebbs and flows, and this pendulum always shifts back and forth. But ultimately, if you really talk to the people who care about law enforcement in general, like, they are there to support us. And I want to make sure to say that is the general public does support law enforcement. And that's why it's so important for leaders to be able to support their troops even more so in those times of need.
And that's a reality of what we see on the screens versus what we see on the streets. And I'm glad that you brought that up. So what are the actual tactics here? I think the first is to separate the mission from the institution. They are not the same thing.
That's the big, we talk about having that separation all the time, because you have your administration, they have their own experiences, they have their own stuff that they're going through that they have to deal with, and they have their orders they have to follow in certain instances, removing the political mindset of how they're responding to certain things. But ultimately, if they hold true to their values and integrity, you'll never have to worry about them betraying you in that instance. But over time, the entity in itself, it's the person, that one specific leader is not what the institute is the institute that you've established as the police department itself is not only identifiable as that one person. It is you as a whole.
I feel so blessed and my heart fills with gratitude with all of the different conversations that I've had with the hundreds, probably thousands at this point, of people that reach out to me. And, we have conversations, and some of them are more on a professional, strategic level. Some of them are quick and, what I have time for. But something that has stood out to me with this concept, and everybody would be agreeable to this, is you need to learn to build trust laterally and not upward. And over time, it's going to be like your investments. You need to give it some time. That peer support is going to matter a lot more than maybe that, the leader or the leadership structure of how things are right now.
Yeah, it's always going to change. And like I've said, I've been through so many different leadership structures, and you're going to see that leadership role change throughout your career. And sometimes it's, like Ashley said, it's an investment process, and sometimes it works out, the economy is good, and sometimes it crashes and you're just like, man, how am I going to power through this?
I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below, and as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.
Are you noticing your car insurance rate creep up even without tickets or claims? You're not alone. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry handles the legwork by comparing quotes side by side from over 50 top insurers, so you can confidently hit buy. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Jerry even tracks rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Don't settle for higher rates. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/libsyn today. That's jerry.ai/libsyn.